Good morning, everybody. This is Dee Reinhardt. I am going to be your guide today, and we are going to be talking about the ATIM, the Accelerated Training and Manufacturing Program today. Your presentation actually has quite a few slides that will give you some background, but we're going to try to spend most of our time into the application itself while we're working on getting the rest of the components up and running for you. So today what we're going to be talking about is the information, and if you notice, the screenshot looks like our new preview to the website. So watch for that coming up in the future. The regional manufacturing website is going to be able to give you tools for everyone to engage in the program that we're implementing, and we will be able to have you as well as the participants engage in different items. And then they'll be able to find different information based on the zip code for the regional area where they actually are. The big picture is that manufacturing information will be available for everybody to see. We'll have the online application, and then we will have the training and employment plans for the people who are actually participating in the group. And part of the accelerated training program is working on these 4 areas of information in manufacturing: machine operator, mechatronics, welding, and logistics inventory. So right now what I'd like to do is do a polling question. If you could let me know what you think is involved in mechatronics. A couple of those words I'm glad I don't have to try to pronounce every day. All right, we're going to give you just a couple of more seconds here to complete your responses. And we're going to hide this poll now for you. So we will have opportunities on our menu to do all of these different things. We will have some widgets that will be available that can be pasted on your website and will be available on Illinois WorkNet, and then you would be able to post them on your website. We will also have the, once the job seeker actually logs into their Illinois WorkNet account, they will be able to do these particular things. And we just recently had a webinar on how to use Illinois WorkNet, and if Chelsea can post that link into the chat pod, I would appreciate it, because that helps you be able to direct your participants to something that they can use so that they know why they need to have an Illinois WorkNet account. We are also looking at some potential additions to the personalization part of Illinois WorkNet, as well as we have the employment skills activities available. So we also had a series of webinars on these employment skills that are available through Illinois WorkNet as well. We're working through the Illinois Shared Learning Environment to help with the educational aspect of this program, as well as the tools that are available through them. We will be able to narrow searches and help people find more resources more rapidly. We'd also like to identify the gaps for the different areas, so you might want to take a look at some of these areas to determine who you might be able to speak with in your recruiting process. And then what we'll be discussing today is a little bit about what the partners need to do as well as what the participants will need to do. You will be able to do some forecasting and job posting. This portion is being worked on as we speak. We will hopefully have this up in a very short period of time. There will be availability for you to identify job openings as well as the employers that are there and your forecasting for those jobs. And then you'll be doing an employment plan for your participants, and they will include these aspects, as well as your regional area will be able to have access to those plans. And in the plan, you'll want to include these components to help keep everybody on track, not just your participant, but you as the program themselves. And then you'll have a dashboard so that you can see where you stand at all times. This portion is being worked on as well. We'll do a demonstration once this is up and available. And this is another part of the dashboard, as is this. So we're just kind of giving you a broad overview here of what you can expect to see in the future. And then we'll talk about what the training components are that people will need for their program. As we get those areas developed further on the website, we'll be doing a demonstration there as well as the job placements. Now, just because we're so special, as are you, we are developing a new website for all of the Illinois WorkNet manufacturing program, and you can see the links here. ATIM will be the overview. The application will be available at ATIM app, and we will have a guide available at ATIM guide. And this is a brand new website that we will be implementing with this program. So on our guide, it will have getting started, where you can find the different parts of how to get started. It will have an area for your participants. It will have an area for the training and career plans, work experience, an area where you can download documents, as well as the FAQ component. And right now you can see it at ATIM guide, but we will be moving that over to IL WorkNet manufacturing as soon as the page is up and able to be used.
Right. Hey, Dee, also with that back, let me go back real quick. So each of these sections will have instructions. And so at this time, right now we have our, basically like our big buckets areas. That's what Dee has listed here. And as we continue to develop, you know, the guides, and as we have more information, we'll be putting it on this page, and actually, and I see Lisa has a question, and Chelsea, if you're available, you can get the right URL in there. But what I want you to know is that we're going to be adding more information here. So for either like next steps, or just like step-by-step instructions on how to do things, it'll be available in this ATIM guide. It's available online. We'll have all of our archived webinars, just like this one. We'll be able to put that on this page as well. You'll also be able to see upcoming webinars, because we do have a training plan, and we're just working on the details for the dates right now. But we'll be able to put that, all those webinar dates that you'll want to keep in touch with. And we do want to have, just some touch base overview updates on where we are, so that you stay in the loop and know where we are with the developing the tools and making them available for you. So the main thing is that when you just kind of keep your eyes and ears open, because we will be asking you for your feedback. So we'll want you to, to use something, and then we'll ask you for your feedback. Do we need to make any updates? We do want to keep you involved in this process.
And we will be sending out alerts as pages become available. because there was a question in the chat pod for this.
Yep.
All right, so now what we're going to do is, we have a typo in this slide. Illinois is spelled without that extra O at the end. So, but what we will be able to do is, I'm going to take you live right now to our edit version of the presentation. So we're going to move this screen over for you. And if you need to, you can go full screen so that you can see this a little bit better. But once a participant clicks on the ilworknetmanufacturing.com/ATIMAPP, which which Natasha just put into the chat pod, they'll see this screen. And what they can do is they can either log on with their Illinois WorkNet account, or if they don't have an Illinois WorkNet account already, they will be able to create one. And so what we're going to do is we're going to save just a bit of time by taking me into the application with my Illinois WorkNet account that I've already created. So I've entered my test name and my test password, and I'm going to log in. And as I log in, it gives me the information here, that the standard information about eligibility and the different information that the participants will be able to read, and then click to agree, and then continue. And as they are entering the information, the document will propagate with their Illinois WorkNet information. So if there is something that they have not put in Illinois WorkNet, then they will need to fill this out right now. And then they'll need to put in address, and zip code, and the zip +4, which they can look up if they don't know what it is. So then what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to change this so that I know what my, I know what my 4+ is. And then you can put in your phone number. There is at least one required. It will let you know whether it's, or you will need to tell them whether it's mobile, home, or work. And then if they want to put in a second phone number and a Facebook link, they can if they would like to. When you submit and go to the next page, it will save the information that you've entered at that point in time. Then you'll be asked to select an organization that you will be participating with, and you can pick one of them, and based on the programs that are in is the list that they will see. And Natasha, correct me if I'm wrong here, it's based on the zip code that they enter?
Yep, it's based on the zip code, and for demonstration purposes, this is on our edit server, so don't be alarmed if you don't see your organization there. Again, this is just on our edit and our testing server, so whenever a person enters their zip code, they will see the full list, but they will be arranged in an order so that the location that is closest to them based on their zip code will be displayed first.
Okay, closest to their zip code displayed first. All right, so then once we pick a program, we're going to submit and go to the next page. It saves which program. And then they need some personal information about you. And if you need to fill the information in, or you can select, prefer not to answer. The birth date will give you a calendar. They will need to pick a date, and they will need to be over 18. Is that correct?
Yes, for eligibility, they'll need to be 18 over.
All right. And I'm going to just pick that, yes, I was a military status, and no, I don't have a disability status, but there are your options here. So we'll look at the different options. This is for the military status, and this is for the disability status. And then you can pick what ethnicity you are, select all that apply. And the employment status, whether or not you are currently employed, not in labor force, unemployed, or receive notice of termination or military separation. And then put in a dollar amount that is applicable to your income before taxes, and then whether any of these items apply to you, whether it's English as a second language, you have a criminal record, you're homeless, or if none of these apply to you. And again, as you submit, it saves your information as you're going. Then it will ask you if you've ever had a job. And if you say yes, it drops open the box that will let you put in your information. So if we say Illinois workNet, and we are currently employed, it will give us just the start date option. And if you uncheck, then you will put a start date and an end date. So you can pick a drop from the drop-down menu of when you started and when you ended. I'm just throwing some numbers in here right now. And what your job title was. So I was going to be a press operator. And was this job related to manufacturing? It's either a yes or no answer. What was the address? I don't know if that's actually Ottawa's zip code or not. But then when you save that information or add another job, we're going to add another job. What happens once they've added that job, the current job that they just entered shows up here on the right-hand side, which is very useful because then they can keep track of where they were. So if we add one more job, we're going to say McDonald's, and we are currently employed, and we started then we can put in the address, and then we submit and go to the next page, and that information will then be saved. We can then enter what our highest level of education is, and then we put any certifications that we might have. National Career Readiness Certificate, MSSC, any of these items. So if you actually have one, you would pick it. And then if you have any trade or vocational certificates, you would want to put that in here when you earned it. Say I earned it in March of 2010, and what the certificate type was, and it was an occupational skills certificate or credential occupational skills license. And then when you add another certificate, your first one will show up over on the right-hand side, just like the job did. So I'm not going to add a second one right now. We're going to just submit this and go to the next page. It saves the information. And then what I would do is I would select the training program that interests me the most. And they can pick more than one. So maybe I want to get into that mechatronics, and maybe I want to get into welding. Then you can pick a date based on the calendar when you can begin training. It will ask you 3 questions here. The first one is describe your immediate employment goal is to be describe your immediate wage goal, and you might want to say to the person, well, what do you need to make? And what's your long-term career goal? And then you would submit it and go to the next page. Then they'll want to know, how did you hear about the program? So maybe they heard about it from a friend or a family member, as well as at the Illinois WorkNet Center, and maybe there was somebody that told them about it from the LinkedIn group. Then when they click Save and Preview Application, they will see the information that they have entered. They can go through to review their choices that they've made. As they see something, if it was wrong, maybe the date on the start date or the end date was wrong, or maybe their education was wrong, they can go back and edit the section, and maybe they had an extra vocational license. So then when they go back, what ends up happening is they will have to finish again where they started at that point, and then go on from there. And then they will need to finish out the next one and the last one. It takes them back to the save and preview, where they can double check again anything that they have entered. Once they are sure that everything is the way that they would like it to be, then they will submit their application. They will get a screen confirmation that says, once you submit, you can't go back and change it. So then you say continue and submit, and it takes them back to Illinois WorkNet. So do we have any questions about the application? We do have a second tester option that we can look at if you have any other questions, but as I just said, I can't go back into that application. All right, and in your presentation, we have screenshots so that you can take a look at them for reference as you go through the application online. There will be information, and as well as this webinar will be posted for your reference at a future time if you need to watch that. All right, so does anybody have any questions? We're going to open up one more polling question here. What are the different sorts of activities that might be included for your participants? And we have a question from the audience. If you find out during the initial face-to-face session that someone has a credential that wasn't on their application, would you update the application? Natasha, is that something that we need to talk to programming about, or is that something that we would be able to update in their personal, in the person's file within the dashboard once the dashboard is up?
I believe they'll be able to update the information, and I would need to double check if that is actually updated for that particular piece, depending on the piece that you're talking about. Might need to be updated in IWDS. So the information that is being collected through workNet will update IWDS. And then also you'll have your information that you updated the eligibility components, that type of thing, that you'll update in IWDS, and then you'll be able to see that through the dashboards that are available in Illinois WorkNet too.
All right, and Sarah asked, what was the answer to the first polling question? It was everything. All of those components were part of mechatronics. All right, and then we have a question from Will County. Is the IWN application to be completed before or after WIA eligibility? And I think they need to complete the application first.
Yes, Mike Baker just said before.
Okay. Okay, and then this is the next person just said, you may want to indicate how far back an individual needs to go with work experience. Can we add that to the application, Natasha? All right, we'll put that in the notes pod so that we can give that to the programmers. And Mike Baker just said that the application is the very first step. And he's also saying they should go back as far as provides relevant experience. All right. All right, so now let's take a look at our next steps. And what we will be doing is we'll send out a list of ATIM intake locations that were provided in your plan. And we want to make sure that the list of those locations and regions are accurate. We'll also send out a list of staff and partners, and we need you to identify the type of partner that they are. And that would include a local workforce investment area, the project manager, whether they are adult education, post-secondary training, or an employer.
And the reason why we do this is because we need to know who the different people are so that we can provide them with the correct access to information. Because the dashboards that you showed some wireframes for, the information that's available through those dashboards is dependent on the type of access that you should have. So that's really important to make sure that we have the right people identified, because number one, we want to make sure they can access the dashboards when they're released, but then also we need to make sure they have the right type of access to that information. So it's really important. So I'll send those out to the regional contacts. If you could take a look at that and get that information to us, that'd be great. We are adding in another field, excuse me, for the Illinois WorkNet accounts. So we'll be able to identify what type of partner they are. But also something to keep in mind is something that's new with the new WorkNet and with this site is that you'll have the ability, and we highly recommend and ask that you upload a picture, and then that way it's just it's easy to know which person you're talking about or dealing with, to put a face with a name. So that's something to keep in mind too. That'll be a feature that we'll be adding. And then, if you are a partner, because we did send this information out to the listing of the partners that we had and those that we had contact information for. If you know, or if you forward this on to the other partners, one really important piece is that we need to make sure that everyone has their Illinois WorkNet account. So If you have if you don't already have an Illinois WorkNet account, make sure that you set one up. And if your site's not already partnered, then you can go ahead and set them up as a partner too. And then for everyone, we will, on that ATIM guide page that Dee was talking about, we will have the logo, and Dee can show it to you in just a minute, but we have the ATIM logo that you can use for outreach materials. So we want to make that available to you so that you can go ahead and download it and start incorporating it into the ATIM outreach materials that you have.
All right. All right, and then just as Natasha said, if you do not already have a WorkNet Workforce Partner account, you need to please set that up so that we can give you access. And there are directions here if you need to go to Illinois WorkNet to set that up. Let's show them the logo. We'll go back a couple of screens here. This is the logo that you can use for your marketing materials, and we are in process of getting a couple of flyers created to help you with your outreach to individuals and to employers. So if you need any of this information right now, if you would like a copy of the logo, I believe we can email it to you. If you're already in the process.
We'll just make it available on the ATIM guide page.
Okay. Is the ATIM guide page?
I know Chelsea's working on it now. It'll be available at various stages. Just keep in mind that it'll be available, but just keep in mind that we're updating it as we go along, so we can make that available today.
All right. And then we have a question we have a statement from the audience. It said associate's and bachelor's degrees were under the category of vocational occupational credentials. You may want to clarify that it may be neither. And that is a good point, but in some cases, if they're an electronic engineer, that may be a bachelor's degree. So they would potentially know what their actual credential is. And then we have the comment from if a person exhausted benefits in 2003, worked several jobs after and was fired, would they still be eligible based on the original exhausted benefits? And it looks like Mike Baker answered that UI benefit status is irrelevant, except for how it might play into WIA and disabled worker eligibility. I think that's what the DW meant.
Yep. Hey, Mike, if you could, we can unmute your phone. Just let us know if you just let us the last 4 digits of your phone number.
643. All right. Mike, can we hear you now?
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Back to this question about eligibility and whether or not they have exhausted UI benefits, etc. The UI benefits really is not relevant directly to this. It just can play into being WIA dislocated worker eligible. So that's what you have to focus on. Are they WIA eligible, either adult or dislocated worker, and are they not currently or recently exited from the system? So if they're currently in WIA or TAA, they cannot come in. If they were exited within the last 90 days, they cannot come in. But if they were in WIA like 6 months ago or a year ago and exited out, they may come in. Okay. Also, Jim Nelson had a great comment about it depends on what they were fired for. Really, that speaks to the suitability for the program. There are 2 pieces to this interview process when we're doing intake. One is eligibility, which is very cut and dry. The other is suitability, where you look at their individual circumstances and background and say, okay, do you have a very good or do you have a reasonable chance of succeeding in this program by taking this sort of training and getting a job and keeping a job. So, if they did something that was so egregious that it's very unlikely an employer would hire them, that speaks to suitability, and you're going to have to look at that on a case-by-case basis. Now, I cannot give you an example of what that might be because of, everyone's circumstances are different. But you'll just have to look at it and see, does this person, based on what we're looking at, have a reasonable chance of success both in the training and getting an interview and getting hired? Because at the end of the day, this is all about getting someone hired and getting permanent employment. We're not really interested in so much in the how many people we can churn through it. If people don't get jobs at the end of the day, however many people we churn through, it doesn't matter. So always stay focused on, will this person have a good shot at being employed if we can just get them a skill upgrade? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then to the question about press releases, feel free to do any press releases you like. Just please use the ATIM logo that's been provided. That was sent to all of the leads yesterday. So we want to have a branding that is consistent across the state. So, but yeah, you don't have to wait on us to do that. You go ahead and get started if you haven't already.
All right. Do we have any additional questions for anyone? We will be posting this recorded webinar so that you can see the demonstration of the application again.
It'll be available through the ATIM guide.
Okay. All right. Not seeing any more questions, we will be closing down this webinar, and we will be posting our next upcoming webinars on our guide in the calendar area. So if you have any questions at all, you can always contact us at info@illinoisworknet.com, and we will post the questions that we had in here in our chat pod at the on the FAQ page. We have one more question. Does anyone have a press release they have already used as a template? If anybody would like to respond to Sarah with a link that they may have had, it's always better not to have to reinvent the wheel. And with these places being in different areas, a similar press release cannot hurt. Will these individuals go on IWDS at all? I would say, I don't know the answer to that.
Gary is. They'll be in IWDS. I don't understand, like, if you're talking about the individual going into IWDS, or you mean the go on, because it says go on IWDS at all.
All right. Jeannie just typed in that all applications are being ported to IWDS.
Right. But the individual doesn't. I just questioned because of the word on. That's the only reason. But
Okay. Okay, and
But the
Lisa says
application.
the last info session we were told that a press release was going to be sent to us. We can work on that then and see if we can come up with a template for you to be able to use.
Right.
Okay. All right. With no further questions, well, it looks, okay, so as a clarification here, for IWDS, the case managers with WIA will go into IWDS to indicate eligibility. The customers will
Right.
not.
Right. We will have an information page for an outreach information, for potential employers. And that will have the employer information that'll be available from that first URL that you see up there, the ilworknetmanufacturing.com ATIM. So that information will be available from that general, like an outreach overview outreach page.
All right. I don't see any additional questions or anyone typing, so we will be closing down this webinar. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you to Mike Baker for his answers and input, to Natasha for her answers and input, and to everyone on the back end of this webinar, Natasha and Jeannie and Chelsea. We couldn't do this without all of the fabulous Illinois work